In the year of our Keranos, 2023, can I actually win games of Magic with this card? We're gonna find out, or die trying. Hello folks, Phil Gallagher aka ThrabenU here for another Legacy video, and today Cody threw down a challenge, asking me to try to win games with Keranos, God of Storms. And to talk about this card, we're going to do a brief kind of history lesson. Back in the days of modern Splinter Twin, when that was a thing, Keranos God of Storms was a fantastic sideboard option. It was a card that you could play that either gave you overwhelming card advantage or a lightning bolt every single turn. And you were always happy drawing a card or lightning bolting something, especially when you had like inevitability because you did have a combo finish in your deck list. And for a very brief period, this was actually a playable legacy card. It saw a little bit of play as a Grixis Control finisher, and believe it or not, it actually saw some play in Reanimator. Back in the day, the reanimation targets weren't what they used to be, and a lot of them were just vulnerable to Swords to Plowshares. While now we have fantastic targets, we have Grizzlebrand, Atraxa, Archon of Cruelty. We have so many great reanimation targets. But back in the day, having a legit indestructible thing that could come in out of the graveyard was really strong. And Keranos was a card that I absolutely grew to love, and we're going to try to play it in Legacy today. Grixis Control, generally speaking, has problems ending games because a lot of the air quotes threats that it wants to be playing are 1/1s like Baleful Strix or maybe 2/1s like Snapcaster Mage. So Keranos offering us a lightning bolt worth of damage every turn, or maybe every other turn depending on what cards are on top of your library, is actually very reasonable as a finishing clock. And assuming it does resolve, it is going to miss things like Prismatic Ending that normally might answer a lot of other problem permanents. Let's go ahead and take a look at the deck list that I cooked up for today. I do want to take a second to mention that today's video is sponsored both by cardsphere.com and moxfield.com, and we'll take a look at them later. So we're going to try to play a Grixis Control shell featuring our good friend Keranos, and there's a couple of cute things about this deck list. Number one, we do have a Fable of the Mirrorbreaker, which we can use as Reflection of Kiki-Jiki to repeatedly copy things like Baleful Strix or Snapcaster Mage to just utterly bury our opponents in cards. Number two, the middle mode of Fable of the Mirrorbreaker here can discard a Keranos and we can reanimate it out of our graveyard. Is this an optimal thing for me to do? No. Was it too fun, too much of a throwback? I couldn't resist. I absolutely couldn't resist it. We've got to give it a shot. Most of the rest of the stuff that's here is relatively stock. We do have a handful of new cards like Minor Misstep in the mix here. And as far as the sideboard goes, it's an assortment of strong targeted cards like Meltdown and Surgical Extraction that you might expect, and a couple of pieces of spice. While generally speaking, I am a huge fan of Sudden Edict over Sheoldred's Edict, I thought this deck might have trouble answering Planeswalkers specifically, so I'm packing a whole bunch of Sheoldred's Edicts in the 75 here. We're going to be pretty good at answering creatures with things like Push, Strix, Lightning Bolt, and Kolaghan's Command to kind of cover those bases, and Brazen Borrower as well as some blasts in the sideboard can kind of cover everything else here. There's a handful of things that I'm unsure of in deck building. I don't know if the Sheoldreds should just be in the main deck. It is a very fast finisher. I think the Sheoldreds would be reasonable if I wasn't trying to get cute with Keranos, but, you can only play so many big dumb cards at the end of your curve, and I think Keranos fulfills that role in game 1. Last card that I want to highlight here that you might not know is Cling to Dust, which in my opinion is a relatively weak card, but it's kind of your Uro in a Grixis Control deck. It is just something that you can keep doing, and when you don't have anything else to funnel mana into, this is reasonable. Fairy Mastermind was another card that I considered for the shell, but I couldn't quite find the spots for it. So yeah, we're going to try running this through a league. We're going to see how many games we win or lose to Keranos, and how many times I lose my mind when Keranos is either Red Elemental Blasted or Pyroblasted, because it is vulnerable to both while on the stack. Alright, let me know in the comments down below what you think of the deck building here, and let's battle. Alright, the Battle of TES Jesus versus Keranos. We will see which god comes out on top. So, my opponent has a single reanimation spell here, and that is this Exhume that I am going to be taking. And that is gonna really put a damper on their plans. I imagine I'm going to get griefed here, but my opponent might wait. I don't know, are they gonna think I am on Reanimator? Grief, exiling Grief. We're just gonna let that happen. I am now down 1 Force of Will. I could get Unmasked here as well. Alright, Atraxa is gone, Unmask occurs. I'm just gonna let this happen. I'm not gonna 2-for-1 myself here. And the second Force of Will is gone. Part of me wants to just absolute mad lad Thoughtseize myself, put my Keranos in the graveyard, and then Exhume is off, but that turns on opposing reanimates. So that's a thing. My opponent has Grizzlebrand and 1 unknown card. I do not believe that I want to Thoughtseize them. Because if they don't have another spell, I am just stuck giving them Grizzlebrand. With 3 cards in hand, do I Thoughtseize? I believe the answer is yes. I'm just trying to think if I want to do it off Snapcaster. I think I do. Oh, maybe I don't. The Snapcaster is so much better as like a Brainstorm or a Ponder or a Misstep or a Bolt later. I might just be playing Snapcaster end of turn as a bear anyway. Yeah, I think that is the case. We will do a slightly risky thing. Ooh, Tyrannox Rex. Okay. We will be taking the Animate Dead here. We are in full bully mode here. We are a faithless looting away from being a little spooked. I do not believe that I cast another Thoughtseize here. I think I'm just going to pass the turn. I will probably just flash in a naked Snapcaster Mage at my opponent's end of turn. Alright, yeah, we have to target a Force of Will here. We're not going to cast it. Oh yeah. This feels pretty good. Again, there's some risk in casting this Thoughtseize. I think I just go for it anyway, though. Like that Animate Dead. I have just had absolute clutch timing in choosing when I cast these spells. Alright, yeah, perfect timing. We will bash in for 4 more points of damage. Reanimate is starting to be a risky proposition. And I think we've stolen game 1 versus Reanimator from the looks of it here. Opponent's at 7, and then is about to be at 3. I don't think I need to play Brainstorm at sorcery speed here. I'm just gonna keep it as an emergency out to something going wrong. Alright, there's the fetch to 2. Either Snapcaster Mage is now lethal. Opponent's got a whole zoo worth of creatures, by the way. This is a very wide range of effects. I would like Force of Negation. I would like Surgical Extraction and Cling to Dust. These are the primary things that I'm interested in. I have Reanimate. I'm not boarding that out. That's too cute. Edicts are playable. Shouldred is playable. I do not want Plague Engineer. Do not want Fatal Push. I think my dude's got to go, unfortunately. Tapping out for a 5-mana play is a death sentence here, and this is just something I very much do not want my opponent to be able to reanimate. Like, I'm very comfortable winning this with small creature beats. From here, the boarding's a little harder. I could go down all of the lightning bolts and play a build that looks like this. I'll be a little worse at answering sideboard plays like Douthie Voidwalker if that happens, though. Do I need the card advantage of Kolaghan's command here? I might not need the card advantage of Kolaghan's command here, and I can just keep a couple of lightning bolts in the deck to pressure my opponent's stuff. Bolt Snap Bolt is very real as well. This is okay. I think I can do better though. I've been tempted. Oh no. It's just a reanimate hand. This has a chance to just utterly blow my opponent out if they just play turn 1 Faithless Looting. I... These videos are for entertainment, right? Alright. I'm gonna keep it. I want it so bad. I believe this is a mulligan. I can't do it. Alright. Everyone, don't be alarmed. But it might be happening. Don't do it. Matt. No! Yeah, my opening hand really needed to have Force of Will, Force of Negation, Surgical Extraction in it on the draw. But on 6, I think a Reanimator Gambit is not crazy. My opponent has to take... Well, they don't have to take my Reanimate here. Might take my Sheoldred's Edict. Just like really awkward for them if I get to reanimate one of their things. Alright, they have an Entomb. Go ahead and play a Delta and pass. I can I can Edict away that Grizzlebrand on my next turn, assuming I can get there before effectively being just buried by 8 to 15 cards. Alright, they've got blue for a Show and Tell sideboard plan. A Reanimate on a Grief. We'll respond with a Brainstorm there. Volcanic Island. And I'm going to do this to try and find a way to get this Sheoldred's Edict through. I'm just not going to succeed here. We're going to hide both of my removal spells and then not Shuffle. Alright, goodbye, Snappy. We'll go ahead and drop Strix. That redraws my other removal spell. Am I gonna get, like, Fatal Pushed here? Oh, it's an Entomb, sure. An Archon of Cruelty will absolutely just, like, finish this game. Okay, there is Archon. And my opponent is going to have a draw 7 on a stick here. So I imagine they... If they can't just pre-combat reanimate that, they can just attack, trade Grizzlebrand, I take 3, then they Archon me. Oh, an Echoing Truth. That's fine. I think I am comfortable just conceding the game there. Like, I'm at a low enough life total where one of those things is going to kill me. And I think I'm comfortable with how I'm boarded. Alright, this is a pretty reasonable opening hand. I'm going to try to punch through with Thoughtseize. I have Force of Will as my safety net, and hopefully a Sheoldred can clock my opponent in short order. Kind of have to decide whether or not I want to play, like whether or not I want to fetch on turn 1. I don't think I do, in case I just naturally draw a blue dual land. My opponent mulliganed once as well. That is not a particularly strong hand. I think taking the looting, despite the fact that, like, it has value on the backside, I think that slows my opponent down the most. And if they go for land, Lotus Petal, Dark Ritual, Lotus Petal, Grief, I just, like, force the Grief and move on with my life. And they're down most of their resources. Yep. Alright, they are not willing to go for it. That is fine. It's weird as my only blue card. Also absolutely the play that I want to make this turn. I probably can't do that. I probably just make my land drop and hold up Sheoldred's Edict. I think I just have to give my opponent 2 very valid targets for their stuff. Alright, we are seeing movement. My opponent might do something like Dark Writ Grief, or they could, like, Dark Writ Faithless Looting. They have options. That resolves, and Grief happens. My opponent has Unmask and 1 unknown card. I could Force of Will this to keep Sheoldred's Edict in hand, or I could just Sheoldred's Edict this, and they probably take my Force of Will. I think I let them take my Force of Will. Do a Volk. Opponent sacrifices a non-token creature, take that out of there. And then my opponent can take my Force, presumably. There are other options here. But if they take Force, I just get to play Baleful Strix, and that makes it easier for me to put Sheoldred into play. They're taking my Sheoldred. A strong long-term play. I will go ahead and Thoughtseize my opponent here. We'll take the Show and Tell. And then I'll go ahead and cycle that card. We're going to be in that awkward Grixis stage where I have a slow clock. I really wanted access to that Sheoldred. Looting is very good here. Lets my opponent turn that Unmask into a more reasonable card. And maybe puts a real creature into my graveyard. Or their graveyard, rather. Yeah, that is a Grizzlebrand in Yard, which is instantly scary. And I whiffed on my draw. I need to dodge this turn. I'm pretty good if I do so. Ooh, yeah. Alright, Force of Will is live. Force of Negation is also live. Game's not over. Again, my opponent is on a 17-turn clock right now, but life is much, 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 much better than it was a minute ago. Shenanigans. That's really awkward. I don't care about the dredge side of the equation, but like this is my primary clock right now. And any future copy of Baleful Strix is destroyed by this. Is also kind of a removal spell sometimes. I'm going to go ahead and bite on the Force of Negation. I think I'm going to get a basic in case Magus of the Moon is randomly a thing. And let's just exile that. Again, I don't really want to spend resources on that. I'm always attacking. I have a lot of sorcery speed things that I could play out that are important. I will go ahead and fire this off. I'm going to keep Force of Will available. That's so awkward. I'm going to stack this like this. I'm going to go ahead and put the Force of Will back. Cast the Inquisition, and if things get weird, I have the opportunity. Yeah, we will take Echoing Truth there. My opponent has Dark Ritual. I have the opportunity to Brainstorm into a Force of Will, or Brainstorm into a removal spell. Otherwise, I can just redraw the Force of Will and continue to do small attacks. I don't love my position. Again, really wanted something that looked like this here. Looting occurs. Dark Ritual's gone now. It's just looting again. Junking more mana. I want to go ahead and fetch. The Edict is not great versus Grizzlebrand. I'm going to go ahead and fetch here. I have an Underground Sea to just kind of complete the squad of dual lands. And I will just pass the turn after attacking for 1. Leave up Hardcast Force, and I can end of turn Brainstorm if my opponent doesn't do anything that requires that force. Which they did not. Okay. Multiple deltas there. We'll go ahead and just redraw one of those. I'll fetch the other away. This gives me access to Hardcast Force of Will and Pitchcast Force of Will in the same turn cycle. But yeah, my kingdom for like a whole Breacher-sized body right now, or something like that. I am just gonna keep the blue card here for sure, rather than trying to do stuff with Brainstorm. Snapcaster is really solid, but I don't pull the trigger on that right now. Hoping to counter something with like Snapcaster, Force of Negation, but I am fine just doing a Snapcaster Brainstorm here and increasing my clock by a little bit. Yeah, these are all fine. I'm gonna bury Sheoldred's Edict. I don't feel like I need that right now. Drop Delta. I'll attack for 3. My opponent's at 8. I think I am comfortable playing Narset. I will have double Pitchcast Force of Will. That's still just fine. Well, I'll have double Pitchcast Force of Will, assuming I have a blue card. Feels like a safe assumption. I'm going to save the fetch. Lightning Bolt takes Reanimate out of the equation. I'm good with grabbing that, although I'm not excited about it. Alright, my opponent's making a move on something. On Show and Tell. Force Pitch Brainstorm, Force Pitch Force. Really Brainstorm first. Alright, I'm going to put back Land and Ponder. No, I'm going to put back Land and Lightning Bolt. This way just leaves me with double Counterspell in case my opponent has something like a Pyroblast. Okay, there is going to be a follow-up play. Each player chooses a card in their hand. Then each player reveals their chosen creature. The owner of each creature revealed this way with the lowest mana value puts it onto the battlefield. I just have Baleful Strix in hand. That's just better for me, right? Yeah, resolves. They chose Sarah's Emissary. That is not quite gonna do it. So this is now 4 damage plus 3 from Lightning Bolt for lethal. This is a great dynamic game. Alright, my opponent has sort of wished us well here. And we'll go ahead and finish the job here with an attack for 4 points of damage. And I should technically dig with Narset first, but my opponent has already told me they're dead. GG's. Have you enjoyed watching me bully people with Fairy Mastermind over the last couple of videos? Well, consider getting your own copy. It seems it's pretty popular over on cardsphere.com, a fantastic way to trade cards peer-to-peer, and they've got some other services as well, and they've even got some written content. Please consider checking them out. They do have some other functionality like being able to sell cards directly to them as well. All right, back to the show. Okay. I believe I'm just going to make a land drop and pass the turn. I don't know what I'm pondering for yet. I don't know if I need a counterspell. I don't know if I need to pressure my opponent's life total. I think the ponder is probably better on turn 2. I could have played Volk though, so that I had Lightning Bolt up. That's a small misstep on my end. There's Fury. Well, shit. All right. I am real soft to that in game 1 scenarios. So this is okay. That's nice. So this is probably get basic swamp to hedge against Blood Moon. We're gonna cast Narset. Got a handful of things we can look. We'll take a Force of Will. Got something to do with the Ponders now. Is that worth Force of Will? I do not believe so. Narset digs deep, but I have very few generic answers to stuff. That's not a problem here. This gives me an island in case Blood Moon occurs. And we're chilling. Yep, I can now hard cast a Force of Will if I need to do that. I am going to fetch with Polluted Delta here. I know I always want Island, and I want to shuffle that other Keranos back into my deck because it would just be fucking bomb to draw it. Yep. I will consider playing Snapcaster Mage as Ambush Viper if my opponent misses their land drop and just remains locked under their Trinisphere. Snapcaster is particularly bad with a Trinisphere in play, so let's get our beats on. I will keep making land drops because things like an 8 mana play of Snapcaster Mage into Force of Will do matter. Alright. My opponent can begin casting spells. That is annoying enough here that I will just force that. It uses my mana. I don't want to let my opponent loot through what might be a mediocre hand. Hey, another Ambush Viper. Opponent goes to 16. Yeah. Don't have enough mana for Snapcaster into force here. This transfer is good. I think I hold the other Snapcaster. Alright, let's go ahead and play Strix, a reanimate. Almost looks good. I'll go ahead and attack with a Snapcaster Mage. Oh, sure. Yeah, I was gonna say, I didn't really expect that trade. You've been choked on mana all game. Like, my plan is to flash in this other Snapcaster Mage in all likelihood to trade with that. Yes, that occurs. My opponent gets their Goblin. Common has to attack now. I'll go ahead and fetch. Grab some land, it doesn't really matter what here. And we'll trade for that token. Alright. Reasonable draw. Let's find some out here. Ooh, Kolaghan's Command. Yes. We're gonna cast this. Destroy target artifact, 2 damage to any target. Destroy target artifact on Chalice, 2 damage to any target on Rabblemaster. Take out both. I still can't reanimate because of Trinisphere. Am I fine with Narset taking 1? I'm fine with Narset taking 1. I'm gonna go ahead and rumble in for some damage. Now I can let my opponent make some bodies and then reanimate their Fury to clear the board. And they might even commit another body beyond what is already out here. This is all fine. Ooh, an Evoked Fury, pitching Caves of Chaos Adventurer. That's a very good Fury, 1/2/1/1. Unfortunately for them, I am also about to have a very good Fury. Alright, goodbye cards. I am almost always just reanimating Fury. I'm going to draw a card with Baleful Strix just to make sure I don't change my mind. I did not. Game 1 Fury coming in clutch. Clear my opponent's board. This is a 2-turn clock. I've got 14 over 2 turns. Main deck dead gone would be awkward, like bounce the Fury. Yes, Caves of Chaos Adventure resolves. I just get to contest the initiative here and take it. It is totally fine with me. Bricks into Lightning Bolt this is probably my line. Eldred's Edict it is just better, and the bolt can go to face later. So goodbye, Caves of Chaos Adventurer. Hello, combat damage. Okay, great. Yeah, a lot of interesting decisions that game. For example, whether or not I force of will to protect that first Narset that comes on board. It's like the first Narset could have dug for an answer to Chalice. But yeah, very happy to win that one. Now, I have a pile of fair cards that I can board in for this matchup. I have to decide what I do not like. I want to go down on some number of 1-drops, which probably means cutting the discard here. And despite the fact that Reanimate is super cute and can do disgusting things, I don't think I'm into it. I also am not into minor misstep on the draw here. I'm going to go ahead and sort this by cost now. Everything that is in my deck is now reasonable. I might get rid of Snapcaster Mages for being very slow on the draw. Narset's also not great if my opponent is like playing Pyroblasts. Hog some damage sometime. I could go down to Narset. Or alternatively, I do this and just keep an even higher density of removal. Narset's just nice for if I do get Chaliced. It's just a way to dig for a Meltdown, Brazen Borrower, Kolaghan's Command. Let's do this. Oh, I forgot Hydroblast, which is a card I was playing pretty much specifically for like this matchup and Painter and Minsk and Boo matchups. Oops. I've kept a little bit of a weird opening hand here. I've kept something that can Force of Negation a Chalice of the Void-like card, but I don't actually have blue mana. But I think this is an appropriate keep for when I am on the draw. Yeah, no, just not gonna mess around with that here. My opponent may or may not have access to red mana after doing that. Okay, they do have red mana. This is going to cost them a lot of life, though. Rabble Master's fine. I get to answer that very cleanly here. But there's my own Fable. I quite like that. Okay. Alright, nice. So I get to take the offensive here. Oh my god, that's such a good draw. This takes so much pressure off my mana base from Blood Moon just knocking me out of this game if my opponent draws one. So like now I have access to treasure tokens and I have access to both of my colors through Blood Moon. Chalice is fine. Chalice currently doesn't do anything to negatively impact my board. Ooh. I say yes to this. I'm going to junk the land. I think I just junk the land. Oh. Fully mode activate. Alright, my opponent's at 9. If they don't do anything, I will just play out Brazen Borrower and attack them for 5. Like, it is perfectly fine to transition into the aggro role when the games are shaping up like this. We'll flip Fable. Bash in for 5. Puts my opponent to 4 in the face of a Kolaghan's command. So they are dead if they tap an Ancient Tomb. I think I Kolaghan's command this before it can give my opponent red to cast Fury. Fury's a bit of a blow here. Destroy that, 2 damage to them. Locks them out of ever using Ancient Tomb. And they're at 2. There is a Fury. Alright, but my opponent goes ahead and concedes. So we are 2-0. But haven't put Keranos into play yet, so we gotta do that. Today's video is sponsored by moxfield.com, just the best place to keep your online deck lists, and the reason I say that is it just has so much functionality. So for example, let's take a look at some random legacy deck here. You can click on your various 2-drop slots and you can see what % chance you have of casting various things on curve, and you can get a breakdown of your mana symbols and all of that stuff, and there's a lot more here than just this. Consider checking it out. Okay, I very clearly have an opening hand that is a keep. I do need to lead on Badlands so that I can cast Inquisition. Ooh, we are playing against Dino Stompy. My opponent can turn 1 Trinisphere if I don't take it. The Trinisphere is kind of a pain in the butt right now because my opponent also does have Wasteland. I don't think I want to mess around with Trinisphere Wasteland right now. My opponent has some really interesting lines on their turn. Like they can Spirit Guide Green Sun into Wasteland me, for example. Which I think that is exactly what's going to happen. Yep. Okay, this is fine and expected. And I will go ahead and take out one of your mana sources here. One of these Spirit Guides is gone too. We're holding the blue source in hand for as long as possible. Oh, nice. So now I get to start doing blue deck stuff. Which, oh wow, that is a thing. That's probably indicative of my opponent having like Natural Order or something that they're working towards. Like, I am a Grixis Control deck. It is very scary to just like get out a Dryad Arbor like that. Yeah, because this can happen. I am going to go ahead and Brainstorm here. Like to hit another land drop. Nope. Go back Plague Engineer and a minor misstep. Take out Dryad Arbor. Just technically I should have done this in my opponent's upkeep in case they're playing crop rotation, but that doesn't really make sense in a Trinisphere deck, so I'm good with it. Alright. There's a land drop for my opponent. I am going to go ahead and just get a card deeper here. Again, probably technically should do this post-combat. And we'll keep poking with Team Bird. Another end of turn fetch. So they are Naya. Okay, yeah, they don't have a lot of gas here. Cool. Willing to bash in with both of these. Bring my opponent to 14. We'll go ahead and fetch. Grab Underground Sea. And play Narset. I will be looking for removal spells in all likelihood. Kolaghan's command counts. More specifically, I want removal spells that can beat a shifting Ceratops, because my Force of Wills are going to get stopped by cards like that. Plant. Oh, okay. No additional gas. I am going to go ahead and minus this first before I Thoughtseize. Fatal Push looks good here. Brainstorm also looks good. I think I'll take Fatal Push. I think I'll take Fatal Push here. I will pre-combat Thoughtseize here. I think I'd like to know if I'm going to walk into an Endurance. Oh, okay. Opponent's just done. What do I have versus this deck? I don't know for sure whether or not they're playing Urza Saga. It's like 50-50. Meltdown still might be appropriate with like the Trinispheres and such happening over there. This is reasonable. These are reasonable in the early game. These are great in the late game, and I might just play some extra Death Touchers. My opponent has shown me white and red mana. They may be for things like Minsk and Boo, various sideboard options. What don't I want? Minor Misstep is too slow on the draw. Inquisition misses a bunch of important stuff. Bolt's not going to kill a lot of my opponent's top end. I probably trim, but don't cut those. Like, the Edicts replace some of those. I maybe don't need 2 Plague Engineers. Like, they're Death Touchers, but not overly exciting. Reanimate probably falls into the cute territory. I might not want to Thoughtseize my opponent on the draw. Trinisphere, Chalice, or my opponent just playing their thing out before I get Thoughtseize might just push me out of that direction and into something that looks like this. I would be comfortable with this. Got Choke to worry about in post-sideboard games. This is an unexciting but perfectly reasonable hand. I'm pretty much always going to keep something that has a Force of Will versus this deck in an on-the-draw matchup. Or game, rather. That was a very fast Ancient Tomb. I could play the game of Brazen Borrower that out of play. I think I'm just not going to play that game, and I am just going to go ahead and take this out. Force of Negation is an okay draw. It stops the scariest things from happening, but I don't have any source of card advantage, so if I have to do this, my opponent will... sorry about that. Yes, that resolves. I think I was saying if I have to use Force of Negation, I think my opponent ends up being in a favored spot. Yeah, we'll just go ahead and Delta Pass. My opponent's super aggressively fetching out Dryad Arbor for presumably Natural Order is another reason. Do I care? I don't think this is worth 2 cards. It's annoying, but I don't think it's worth 2 cards right now. Yeah, we will just go ahead and make a land drop and pass. You can have your Dryad Arbor. I will just counter the Natural Order when you play it. Do it. Yeah, we will not let that happen. This card's very good against control decks. Do I Brazen Borrower it out of play with the trigger on the stack? I just get my opponent for 4 more life, or do I just counter it? I don't want to give my opponent an extra land drop, right? Like that is relevant. Okay. Go ahead and Force of Will that. I think I pitch the Force of Negation and start trying to go on the offensive with Brazen Borrower. Yeah. The green super matters for this deck, and the creature in play matters for if my opponent has Natural Order. Yes, this is fine. Very happy that my opponent tapped Ancient Tomb for that. I will go ahead and do this. My plan is to just kill my opponent in 2 to 3 turns with Brazen Borrower, and hope that they don't play a big dumb dinosaur that makes me sad. The Elvish Spirit Guide beats are not a problem right now. But whatever this is, could be. Is Savannah. And a Natural Order. Yeah, I could have played around that. We'll see what my opponent gets. It might not matter that they resolve that. Atraxa's good. I can bounce it out of play, though. The choke's a pain in the butt, though. So these are the things that my opponent chose. Chalice on 1 occurs. End of turn. Go ahead and Petty Theft the Atraxa out of play. Bloodstained Mire is unexciting. Brazen Borrower here, though, is very good. Whether or not my opponent has outs to this, it depends a lot on what reach creatures they have access to. When they used this Spirit Guide last turn, by the way. Alright, they have played Wasteland and played a Choke. So end of turn. We'll go ahead and fetch. Grab a Swamp. That is a land that untaps through Choke. Go ahead and play out a Brazen Borrower. I don't need all this mana. This attacks my opponent down to 1. So those Ancient Tombs are off. And we'll see if my opponent has something that beats the Brazen Borrower. They don't. We're 3-0, but Daddy Keranos has not come out to play yet. Okay, I've kept my opening hand here. We're going to go full Coward strats and fetch a basic land so I don't get wastelanded. And I know that this Ponder is always looking for another land, which I do find. A command always goes on bottom. I'm going to put the Narset into my hand, and then I have more flexibility for what I Force of Will, or what I pitch to Force of Will if I need to do that in this matchup. Otawara, we could be facing down 8 cast here. My line doesn't change regardless, it's just make a land drop, pass the turn, hold up, Minor Misstep, and Sheoldred's Edict. I'm always fetching here. Alright, looks like 8 cast. Our Monolith is interesting. My opponent is probably playing the, like, Echo Mystic Forge deck. I am going to Brainstorm here. Whether or not I'm going to hit my next land drop is kind of a big deal in terms of information. I'm going to tap out to play Narset on my turn. I think I'm putting back Plague Engineer and 1 Sheoldred's Edict. I think I'm just going to let Monolith happen. Then we'll go ahead and grab a Volcanic Island here, or Volcanic Island plus Underground Sea. Yeah, that's fine. Alright, cool. We'll fetch C. I just want to do this because it stops echo-based shenanigans. I do a little digging. I don't really want a second Force of Will. I will take a Lightning Bolt here. I can hopefully Lightning Bolt a construct, and then Sheoldred's Edict or Kolaghan's Command a construct. Opponent's keep feels kind of weird from my side of the table. Oh, I don't like that. I will Force of Will as a future investment in myself here. Alright, big plays are happening. That is unfortunate. So we'll see how crazy this turn gets. I have Kolaghan's Command for when it gets to my turn. But a lot of damage can be done here. Yep, so there is a Mesmeric Orb in exile, which is a combo with some of these Grim Monolith type cards that can just untap themselves. Alright, cool. So let's do some fishing with Narset. I will absolutely take another Kolaghan's Command. We'll make this land drop here. Go ahead and preemptively fetch. I want to do this in a way that holds up Lightning Bolt, but I think I want Badlands for variety. I want to leave Volcanic Island open. I'm going to go ahead and cast this, destroy target artifact, and have them discard a card as well. Discard my Mystic Forge. That's pretty good, and I can happily beat 1 Urza's Saga token. My opponent was not willing to junk in LED to activate Urza Saga an additional time. See if my opponent has something fun over there, like an expedition map that can search up another Urza Saga. Oh, they just had another Urza Saga. How dare you? Yep, but that's fine. That's also fine. Reanimate currently does not have text. What do I do here? Do I destroy target artifact, draw a card? Or sorry, destroy target artifact, make them discard a card? I'm gonna go ahead and do that. I actually want to leave up Badlands this time, because that represents both Lightning Bolt and Reanimate. It's unlikely that my opponent discards a creature that I want to reanimate, but it's not 0. Oh my god, another Urza Saga. I'm very happy I did that. I'm good for one of these Urza Saga tokens. The next one's a pain in the butt, though. Ponder feels more valuable than holding up Force of Will here. No. Alright. Swamp is not what I'm looking for. My opponent gonna junk a little. Oh, okay, yeah, that's fine. Then they'll use Monolith to Urza Saga. Different Monolith to Urza Saga. You can sacrifice a creature token. Alright, cool. So, same dance as before. There's only one Urza Saga left in deck. If I can answer this Construct token without this Narset leaving board, I'm in very good shape. Yeah, that's fine. Let's find an answer to this 10-10. Hey, it's an answer to this 10-10. I just do it now. Yeah, but it is awkward that this is turn 7 and there is not a single reanimate target available. Yep. Do not have Force of Will currently available. Deal with that. Uh-huh. Yeah, you can untap stuff. Yep. My opponent made a couple more mana sources, but ultimately wasn't able to capitalize on everything super well. I'm not doing a great job of doing meaningful things to end this game. My opponent is going up to a gajillion D mana here. That is a giant walking ballista. I don't have a blue card, so that I can't pitch cast Force of Will here, and I can't cast it normally. So that just resolves. Here we see a difference between Sudden Edict and Sheoldred's Edict that matters a lot. Yep. There's an Echo. It's very bad. I will make my opponent sacrifice their walking ballista here. I'll take a bunch of damage to the face, but it's so much worse for me if that thing sticks around. Yeah, so all game I was like very much trying to keep that Narset alive at all costs because of how bad it would be if my opponent actually ended up resolving an Echo. And that was one of the things most likely to be in their hand. I'm going to go ahead and skip to moments where my opponent does something interesting. They're going to play a lot of cards here, and their permanents are going to bounce around. There is a new Walking Ballista. My opponent passes the turn. Keranos has shown up about a turn cycle too late. Graveyards have been cleared. This Reanimate is back. It is just stuck to my hand. Let's Ponder, start looking for removal. Given how bad this hand is, I will take a new Ponder. We'll go ahead and fetch to clear. And Ponder again. Not succeeding at finding removal. I go ahead and Ponder one more time here. Nope. We've whiffed again. I now don't have enough blue mana to Snapcaster Ponder. The line is Thought Seize myself, reanimate Keranos, and die, but I don't want to show my opponent Keranos because it's kind of a wild card. I unfortunately will concede here. Meltdown is fantastic. Sheoldred is very good. Force of Negation is probably necessary. Cling to Dust probably doesn't do what I want it to do most of the time. Okay, Reanimate is getting out of my deck. Inquisition misses some very important cards. That's gone. Lightning Bolts don't kill larger constructs. A decent number of those probably go. Plague Engineer isn't exactly at its best either. I do like Plague Engineer and 2 Lightning Bolts out. I could go 4 Lightning Bolts out and play 2 more Edicts to be better against constructs. Lightning Bolts are nice at pressuring my opponent's life total. They're kind of unexciting overall. Minor Misstep, also not exactly a banger in this matchup, though. It has targets. It's just unexciting. Hey, I think I'll play it, though. Stopping an LED is sometimes important. Unexciting, but okay. This is just very aggressively use Minor Misstep on a key or a piece of fast mana or something, and then hope that this mid-range stuff can do its thing. Yeah, we will just be very aggressive here and taking out a key. Appa. Alright. Just gonna be a volcanic island. And we'll drop a bird. Baleful plus Strix is cool, but my opponent can do some very large plays with Mystic Forge this turn. Oh, no, nice, okay, cool. Kind of lucked out there then. I think I want Fable in play to get 2 extra looks at a Meltdown next turn, rather than 1 look at a piece of interaction for this turn cycle. I think that's where I'm at, but I'm not 100% sure. This is also just more points of onboard power for if I do really need to pressure my opponent's life total. Again, I'm going to go ahead and skip to relevant points because my opponent's turns can become very long. Alright, Mesmeric Orb has happened, which is a major pain in the butt. So what happens is that Assault Monolith plus Mesmeric Orb can fix the top of my opponent's deck, and likely mean that they get a win. Karn is rough here. I'm going to go ahead and concede so I don't sit here for the next 10 minutes. What's going to happen is my opponent's going to loop through their deck. They're going to cast a bunch of copies of Echo Echo of Eons. I'm not going to be able to really respond appropriately. They'll Karn Wish for something that kills me. GG. Alright, final round here. I have a bit of an unexciting hand. My opponent tends to be a fair gamer, and I think I'm willing to keep a hand that will just Lightning Bolt a turn 1 Mana Dork of some kind, or a turn 1 Elvish Reclaimer, or whatever sort of thing happens over there. Yeah. And I think I am okay with just grabbing the basic here. It means that I can't cast Baleful Strix specifically if I draw... What? God damn it. Okay. Okay. Deck. Sure. I believe I am interested in Narset this turn. I think I just need to dig for appropriate cards here. That's very bad. Do not want to pitch this Baleful Strix. I very much want this body. Oh gosh. Okay, alright, I like the Force of Will now. I'll take it. But I don't like the pile of value that I am facing down here. I think I just cash this in for a card now. And I keep putting Keranos on the bottom. Not being able to grab that off Narset is rough. I'm going to take the Fable with the intention of brainstorming and shuffling away some lands. I'll go ahead and put back Swamp, Badlands, play this, and fetch my basic Swamp so I can never lose access to my colors. And go ahead and just play a Fable. I can use that to loot through some things next turn and maybe work towards an end game where I have Baleful Strix on copy or something. Yuck. Take a little bit of damage here. The Urza Saga is more of a problem than anything else. Fuck! Getting Atraxid. Getting Atraxid. I think if I find an Edict, it's possible for me to come back from this, but it's real fucking tough. Alright, they only got 3 cards there. That could have been worse in that capacity. I'm going to say yes to this. I am always pitching a land. I think I pitched the Narset. Mana efficiency matters a lot. I think that's my play. Snapcaster Lightning Bolt does not do it here. Let's find an edict. Reanimate Grist after playing Baleful Strix. Does it? No, it doesn't, because, well, does my opponent have a green card for endurance? I guess we're gonna find out. Put back these two. Be like a volcanic, I guess. Just tap the worst land first. I still do have just an out of... Not it? Okay. Do you have a green card? Because this is my out. Oh shit. Sacrifice. Yeah. Okay, that was super lucky. Alright. Down the line. Sometimes you have to play towards some weird stuff. Alright, that is Hardcast and Endurance. Alright, they're going to put things back in their own deck. No artifact. Alright. So this is going to eat a Snuff out. I brainstorm now before Grist Plus. I think I do. Those are cards. Snapcaster Reanimate Baleful Strix is good value. Kolaghan's Command backing it up later. Brazen Borrower can take this Endurance out of play, deny some mana. I never want Bloodstained Mire here. I think I want to bounce that out of play. I think I put this on top. Snapcaster Mage. Target Reanimate. Reanimate. Targeting Baleful Strix. Use that to draw the Brazen Borrower. Make a land drop. Plus to mill that Bloodstained Mire. And then I think I let it go to my opponent's turn and then bounce Endurance in their upkeep. I just want to see if they're going to fetch a Dryad Arbor here. They do. Do I sorcery speed this to deny a mana? 4 versus 5. Yeah, I don't sorcery speed that. Okay. The Fiend Artisan. Snuff out's fine. Fiend Artisan is fine. That can die to K command. Sure, does that trample? No. For tempo reasons, let's go ahead and bounce that out of play. Let's convert this Brainstorm into a different card. Put back 1. First mill 1 or 2? 2, right? Mill a card. I'll redraw Lightning Bolt. No, I'll redraw a K command next turn. Go ahead and plus here. Lightning Bolt a Fiend Artisan. Swing in for 4 points of damage and start turning the corner on this game. And we'll go ahead and K command. You can discard a card. I'll shoot Dryad Arbor. And we'll just kind of deny my opponent assorted resources here. They've got a Lair of the Hydra that can attack, but it doesn't trample. Bojuka Bog is solid. Alright. We'll just go ahead and send everything in. That's fine. Everything is fine. So my opponent goes to 3. I now K command. 2 damage to any target. Return target creature from my graveyard to my hand. We get Snapcaster Mage. We deal 2 damage to Endurance. Take out Endurance. Plus Grist again. Just keep the graveyard going. And I've got Brazen Borrower, plus a whole bunch of other bodies in play here. Holy hell, that was a slog. My opponent has a bunch of stuff that is not necessarily going to die to my red removal spells. I am interested in Edicts. I will play this as a Death Toucher that will sometimes kill a creature my opponent has. Whole like Newton Elves style deck is very much built to not be bad against Plague Engineer. Link to Dust isn't crazy, Sholdred isn't crazy. I don't know if I want Force of Negation. I'll drag it over here and think about it. I probably don't want a second Plague Engineer at the very least. Minor Misstep is going to miss a lot of very good cards. Fiend Artisans, the Green Suns, the Grists. Despite the fact that Reanimate won me that game, I don't think I want too much graveyard-focused stuff against a pile of Endurances. And I think we're going to go into top deck wars a huge portion of the game. I don't think I want discard. Like, I want removal and value. And I think that's what I'm looking at here. I have a bunch of Force of Wills and Force of Negations in my deck, but hopefully the Narcissist, the Fables, the Keranos can make up for my deficiencies. I will mulligan. This is fine. I'm going to throw back Plague Engineer. Again, my opponent's deck is designed to be good against that. I mean, they obviously have some things, but generally speaking, they're resilient against this stuff. I maybe should have fetched a Volcanic Island there. No, because I don't have another fetch land beyond that. That occurs. I will just be passing the turn here with the hopes of using Snapcaster Mage as Ambush Viper versus Fiend Artisan. Snuff Out messes with that plan. Yes. No attack in. I think I end of turn Brainstorm here. Just kind of want to smooth things out. To put back Ponder, I'll redraw Snapcaster Mage. Do I want to draw that Ponder next turn? I think so. Oh, I actually can't. I need another... Or no, I can. If I do Swamp, blue, black, red. Alright, let's try to bolt a Fiend Artisan. Target the bolt. Attempt the bolt. It does occur. This Fiend Artisan is now larger. So that my Sheoldred's Edict gets rid of what I actually want it to get rid of, I will Force of Will that. Okay, sure. I will take 4. This is fine. I'm at 14. I am fine pondering. Kolaghan's Command is not super what I'm looking for right now. It's going to miss out on removing some important things. I think I'm going to go ahead and shuffle that. And I'm going to wait a turn on this Ponder to get a feel for what I need. Opponent can sacrifice a non-token creature. Actually, I'm not supposed to do that. I'll change my mind here. I want to do it in response to them fetching with Verdant Catacombs. I'm going to shuffle again. Or I can just take Lightning Bolt and Lightning Bolt Dryad Arbor. Is that fine? Probably fine. I'm slightly more awkward if my opponent has Endurance. Alright. It is Bayou. And it is Endurance. Okay, so I'm going to let that happen, actually. And I'm going to trade Lightning Bolt and Snapcaster for Endurance. And then at some point, I can Kolaghan's Command back this Snapcaster Mage. Yep, that's very good. Yeah. I can use this to get rid of Grist, but then the Fiend Artisan is still a problem. I think I'm going to concede here. Well, I guess I still have outs. I got the Grist. This whole Fiend Artisan Insect token situation is not great for me, though. I can at least learn what my opponent has to fetch, like what's at the top end of their curve that I really have to worry about. It could just be another Fiend Artisan, yeah. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and concede here. That one slipped away pretty quickly. When I am on the play, the Thoughtseize effects become a bit more reasonable. I could do that over something like Cling to Dust. I could also play another Plague Engineer on the play, preemptively, like naming Insect. That's probably fine too. I'm gonna play at least one piece of discard, I think. My curve's just a little chonky here. This is unexciting to me. I will keep it. The intention of probably casting Brainstorm on turn 2 and trying to fix this hand. I'll Sheoldred's Edict if my opponent plays a creature, though. I would like to draw, like, a Keranos and get to resolve that in this game. I have just, like, not drawn it at any portion where I could cast it. We're playing multiple copies. I will respond to that. Oh, fuck. I'm gonna put back a land. And then I'm going to hide the Sheoldred's Edict. But this is very bad. Like, I know that goes without saying, but I have 0 gasoline in the tank here. Alright, I'll fetch to clear. Fine, starting this game on basics. That's gas. Sheoldred and Sheoldred's Edict combo. I can get a... Nope, a Dryad Arbor, just thinning. That's fine. Finding Grist. That's actually okay. I like very specifically have Sheoldred's Edict. Yep. Yep. You can sacrifice a Planeswalker. I am drawing so many lands here. Sheoldred is a non-black threat that does a very large amount of damage and gains me life. It also just means I'm not taking small amounts of chip damage. It doesn't die to snuff out. Fiend Artisan is hopefully fine, assuming I draw any sort of actual gas. Oh my god. This is the sort of scenario where like an indestructible Keranos that gives me an extra card or lightning bolt every turn would be absolutely perfect. I want to loot through Underground Sea. Go ahead and make another land drop. Drop a Fable and pass. Yeah, but this is horrifying, because my opponent just gets to Grist plus and then activate Fiend Artisan. Sure. That's just free for them to do. Opponent did that for X is 0. I don't need to respond to that. Alright. Let's loot through some lands here. Okay, there is a Keranos. Can I play that? Probably have to. Probably have to just be able to take out all of these various bodies. Alright, bud. Final game, it's on you. Feels like my opponent has endurance. I'm gonna take the attack anyway, I'm really far behind. Yep. The issue is that, like, if I don't take the attack, my opponent just has so much power that can attack anyway, that I think I've just gotta risk it here. The treasure is not irrelevant next turn. Oh, I also could just get hoofed and die. Yep. Oh, okay, I am not literally dead. But that's a gross amount of value. Alright, so that's Lair of the Hydra, Green Sun, Fiend Artisan. Grist doesn't count as a Planeswalker in that other zone. Yeah, so like, I just flooded out this game. That's just all there is to it. Like, I'm at the point now where if the board wasn't quite this bad, I could potentially bounce back from it. Yeah, now I have found the card advantage. Yeah, I need a Damnation. My hits have not been kind. Nope. Yeah. I don't know what I'm doing anymore. I'm taking game actions. I'm gonna brainstorm off this treasure. None of this is gonna do anything. I think I'm done. Row back those two. I think I am either literally or effectively dead. Sure. Like, Reflection of Kiki Jiki Baleful Strix is super cute. My opponent's like Fiend Artisan, Grist Engine should like very easily just do me in. Sure. An activation for 9. Okay, they're not going all that way. Plague Engineer on Bird. Alright, yeah, they kill my Reflection of Kiki Jiki, and then I am literally dead this turn. I will concede. Couldn't quite get the old Keranos engine into play, but we ended up with a positive league. So that's it. We've made it to the end of the league here with a 3-2 finish, and I'm happy with the results. The deck felt pretty good, especially as just kind of a first draft. I wish I had drawn Keranos more so I could have better evaluated it. In that matchup, it is a card that I very much wanted to have, but I just flooded out in that last game. And, you know, if I had it a turn or two earlier, I might have been able to keep some of that stuff in check. Generally speaking, Keranos is slow by legacy standards, so don't necessarily expect it to be just the greatest thing since sliced bread. And there's other things that you can consider playing instead in its spot. The Shouldreds, the Hull Breachers of the world. There's plenty of other things that you can use to deal some damage to your opponent while doing something else that has an impact on the game. But as far as a deck list that attempts to do something with Keranos, this is a good start. If you end up messing around with this deck list and you do something great with Keranos, please tag me on Twitter. I would love to see it. Folks, I hope you have a great rest of the day. See ya!